I went to the gym to pick up my wife, Anna Gray, but instead, I caught her in an intimate position with a man. One of his arms was wrapped around her chest, while the other hand was sliding up the inside of her thigh. I immediately recognized him. It was her personal trainer. Anna suddenly slipped, letting out a scream as she began to fall backward. The man caught her effortlessly, smirking as he said, "Careful there, Miss Anna." Anna's face drained of color as she clung to his waist, refusing to let go. "You did that on purpose." The two people hugged each other. And their postures became more and more intimate. Damn it, he's feeling up my wife. I was seething from where I stood at the door, and I was about to storm in when I heard Anna's voice. Her tone was both playful and commanding. "You can't teach any other women, only me from now on." Then, she stood on tiptoe and kissed him on the cheek. I froze. It was August, but I felt like I had plunged into an ice-cold pit, my blood running cold. The man gripped Anna's waist tighter. "Anna, if I only teach you, I'll starve." "Don't worry," she replied nonchalantly. "I'll take care of you. I can spend my husband's money however I want." My breath caught in my throat. More than anything, I felt a deep, bitter chill. 3 months ago, Anna had suddenly mentioned she was spending $20,000 on personal training lessons. I supported it without question. Her sessions, which started at once a week, gradually increased to twice, and then 3 times a week. I just assumed she'd developed a passion for fitness, never suspecting anything else. Today, I finished my work early and decided to pick her up. I never expected to walk into this. I clenched my fists, fighting the urge to storm in and strangle the two of them. But no, not yet. If I confronted them now, it would only end in a fight, at most. Whether Anna and I argued it out or went straight to a divorce, it would be too easy on them. I stayed hidden outside and called Anna, doing my best to keep my voice steady. "Hey, Anna, where are you?" "In the gym. Why?" "Nothing, just wanted to check. I'll be home soon. Do you want me to bring something for you to eat?" Anna suddenly laughed, glancing over at the man beside her. "I'm good, I've already eaten." I took a deep breath. "All right, I'll come pick you up." She quickly refused. "It's just a few steps, I'll walk back myself." "You went home and washed the clothes on the sofa." "I'll be back soon." I don't even remember how I made it home. As soon as I got back, I immediately grabbed Anna's tablet, the one that had her social media accounts. Normally, I would never snoop like this, but now, I had to know. Luckily, she hadn't deleted any of the chat history. It started 3 months ago, when they first added each other. What began as normal communication slowly evolved into flirtation and teasing. The man sent plenty of photos of himself, showing off his muscles, his abs, and his V-line. And eventually, their messages turned into outright flirtation and suggestive remarks. My heart grew colder with every scroll. Looking back, I could see it now, Anna had changed long before this. She had less patience, more complaints. When someone's heart changes, no matter how much they try to hide it, there's always some sign. But I trusted her so completely that I never thought twice. Just as I placed the tablet back in its spot, Anna walked in. She was humming, looking cheerful, as if nothing was wrong. She had taken a shower at the gym, but for some reason, I couldn't shake the feeling that the scent of her body wash didn't quite cover up the traces of another man. The feeling made me sick. As I went to shower myself, I noticed she was still messaging that trainer. Days just feel like stagnant water, so boring. He's not terrible, but do I really have to spend my whole life with him? I'd rather die than live that way. Why didn't I meet you sooner? He replied, "Anna, just divorce your husband." She answered, "All right, if I divorce him, how about I use the money to take care of you?" I couldn't believe what I was reading. Before Anna and I got married, she had a job that paid $2,500 a month, worked 6 days a week, and often stayed until 8 p.m. Back then, all she wanted was a simpler, easier life. After we got married, I helped her find a more relaxed job. One that didn't pay much but gave her plenty of free time. The car and the house were both prepared before we got married, no mortgage to worry about. We had a stable life with no financial pressure. How many people would envy the kind of stability we had? But to her, it felt like a stagnant pond, boring and lifeless. No wonder she had always refused to have children. And now, I could never have imagined she'd have the nerve to say such a thing, using my money to support another man. Fine. If she was tired of a stable life and wanted excitement, I'd make sure she got exactly what she was asking for. The gym's coach information was publicly available, so it didn't take me long to find out who the guy was. His name is Henry, 23 years old, and from out of town. According to his colleagues, this guy had just broken up with his girlfriend not long ago. He often joked about wanting people to introduce him to wealthy women. I hired someone to follow him for a few days, and I found out some even more shocking things. This guy hadn't just been hitting on Anna, but also had illicit relationships with 2 other female gym members. I spent some more time digging through the gym's client records and managed to get the names and contact info of the 2 women. For safety, I created an anonymous account to add them on social media. One of them was Daisy, an unmarried woman in her 30s, and the other was Janet, a married mom of 2. The person I hired followed Henry for 3 days and caught him checking into a hotel with a woman 3 times. One day, he went with one woman in the morning and another in the afternoon. I used my anonymous account to add him, pretending I wanted to sign up for a gym membership. Henry eagerly messaged me, sending multiple replies. I didn't respond much, just scrolling through his posts. Most of them were advertising gym memberships, but occasionally, he'd post some personal updates. The most recent one was from a restaurant. The decor looked familiar. After thinking for a while, I suddenly remembered. Daisy had posted a picture with the exact same background. The only difference was that Daisy had added a caption, "Meeting you is like a rabbit world where carrot rain falls." I got it. This Daisy clearly saw Henry as a serious prospect. She didn't know what kind of scumbag he really was. He acted so badly, punishing him is God's justice. I quietly gathered evidence of Henry's affairs with various women while pretending nothing was wrong in front of Anna. On Sunday, after lunch, Anna suddenly told me she was heading to the gym. I was surprised. "It's so sunny out. Aren't you going to get sunburned?" She packed her things and replied, "You don't understand, this is the perfect time. The pool will be less crowded." I smiled. Henry had messaged her that morning, and I knew she thought I didn't see it. As soon as she left, I secretly followed her. When we got outside the neighborhood, she took a taxi. She probably wanted to avoid running into anyone she knew, so she went to a budget hotel 3 kilometers away. She registered at the front desk and went upstairs alone. Anna had always used my credit card, and I'd get notifications every time she bought something. But this time, she must have used her own card. I waited on the street for a while, and sure enough, Henry showed up. I put on a mask and followed him into the elevator. From his and Anna's chat history, I was certain he didn't recognize me. I pretended to be on the phone, walking slowly out of the elevator behind him, watching as he went into a room. All right, it was time. I sent all the intimate pictures I had of Henry and Anna to Daisy. Daisy was shocked. She immediately asked who I was, what the pictures meant, and who was the woman having dinner with her boyfriend. I didn't answer her. Instead, I sent her the hotel address and room number. Want to know the truth? Come see for yourself. About 20 minutes later, the elevator doors opened with a loud noise. A tall woman, looking to be in her 30s, appeared with a dark expression. I couldn't help but smile. She came. And she wasn't alone, 3 men followed behind her. Daisy seemed to have a quick temper. After she found the room, she started angrily banging on the door. Of course. No one answered. One of the men with her was quick on his feet, grabbing a key card from a passing hotel cleaner. With 2, the door opened. When Daisy saw inside, she immediately shouted, "Henry, you dare cheat on me?" The 3 men rushed inside. A few moments later, a woman's scream echoed down the hallway. It was Anna. The commotion drew attention from several hotel guests, who gathered to watch. I blended into the crowd and secretly filmed. I saw Henry, barely dressed, and Anna only wrapped in a towel. Henry scrambled to explain, "Daisy, you've misunderstood. This is my cousin." His cousin excuse was so weak. Daisy was beyond furious, slapping him across the face. "Shut the hell up with your cousin story. I think she's a bitch." Though Anna had been doing something shameful, she always thought Henry was single and that she was the only one he was involved with. Now, being called a bitch by an unexpected intruder, her self-esteem, already fragile, caused her to forget the fact she was an adulteress. She immediately assumed the role of the good woman being insulted. With eyes red from anger, she tried to slap Daisy. "Who are you calling a bitch? You're the real slut." She didn't even notice how many people Daisy had with her. Before she could lay a finger on her, a man grabbed her by the hair, holding her back. At that point, it escalated quickly. Daisy started slapping Anna, giving her several loud smacks that had Anna crying in pain. Henry, in just his underwear, was being held back by two burly men, too scared to intervene, only shouting, "Stop it, stop it." Daisy glared at him, still defending her. "Huh? You believe I won't slap her first and then come for you?" "Henry, shut up." Daisy wasn't done yet. She yanked Anna by the hair, dragging her toward the door, and started tearing at her towel. "Come on, everyone, take a look. Let's see what this shameless bitch looks like." The crowd, always eager for drama, did nothing but watch. No one stepped in. Anna, embarrassed and panicked, could only cover herself, receiving several more blows to her head and body. Henry wasn't much better off. Henry was proud of his physique, often posting muscle pictures on social media. But now, facing two lean men, he didn't dare to resist. They didn't even need to hold him down, he was pummeled with fists and kicks. "Go to hell. You scumbag. Daisy's trying to date you seriously, and you dare cheat? Today, I'll teach you a lesson." Henry, humiliated and forced to kneel, lost all his pride. Finally, he broke down, begging for mercy. "Stop. Stop it, please." It was cathartic. The chaos didn't last long. The hotel manager and security arrived, dispersing the crowd. I waited outside for about 10 minutes before seeing Daisy's group dragging a bruised and beaten Henry out. One of the men was still shouting, before breaking up, "You better return every cent Daisy spent on you." A few minutes later, Anna slunk out, looking defeated. I immediately called her. "Anna, you're done swimming, right? How about we go out for dinner tonight?" She took a deep breath, adjusted her voice, and then replied, "No, my best friend asked me to meet up. I'm going to her place. By the way, I'm staying over at her place tonight, so I won't be coming home." I sneered. She was clearly too scared to face me right now, her face so swollen it looked like a pig's head. How could she possibly explain that to me? After hanging up, she covered her face and went to a pharmacy to buy some anti-swelling medicine. Then checked into another hotel. The next day, while I was at work, Anna sent me a message saying that the company had arranged for her to go on a business trip. She said she'd just grab a few clothes and leave. I asked her how long she'd be gone. She replied, "I don't know. It could be 3 days, 5 days, who knows." I said, "Okay. Business trip, huh?" More like she planned to hide out and recover from her bruises. That's when I got a new message on my social media. I had someone look into Henry's other female member, the mother of 2. And I discovered some new information. I suspected he might have an Oedipus complex. Anna was 4 years older than him, Daisy was about 7 or 8 years older, and this mom was at least 15 years older than him. Her social media was filled with baby pictures, and nothing else. So I had someone dig into her husband. When you pay, there's no limit to what you can find. The results were surprising. Her husband wasn't just anyone, he'd gone to prison for stabbing someone while drunk. Luckily, the victim didn't suffer fatal injuries, so this guy only served a few years. A tough guy. It seemed. All right. The second day of Anna's business trip, I received a call from her father, Mr. Gray. He greeted me warmly and invited me to his house after work. The Gray family lived in a county just outside the city, about 40 minutes by car viaduct the bypass. I had a feeling I knew exactly why Mr. Gray wanted to see me. 99.9% of the time, it was about Anna's younger brother, Robert. Robert, Anna's younger brother by 2 years, was lazy, unmotivated, and had no real job. Now, at the age when people should be settling down. Mr. and Mrs. Gray weren't concerned with finding him a job but were solely focused on buying him a house and a car, believing that would make him more appealing to potential wives. I'd never agreed with this approach, treating their son like a useless man-child. The last time her father called me, he straight up asked to borrow $300,000 to buy Robert a car. I refused, and the Gray couple gave me the cold shoulder for a while after. I had planned to make up an excuse to avoid going to see them today, but when the words almost came out, I changed my mind. When I arrived at their house, I barely sat down before her mother couldn't hold back anymore. "George, the reason we called you here isn't for anything else, it's about Robert." As expected. Robert's getting older, and all his peers are already married. We're getting anxious. I nodded. But once he has a house, everything else will fall into place, don't you think? I nodded again. Mr. and Mrs. Gray exchanged looks, and Mr. Gray cleared his throat. So, here's the thing. We found a 3-bedroom house that's perfect for him. The property is in high demand, and the opening is just a month away. If we want it, we need to act fast. But we're a little short on funds. You're Anna's brother-in-law, and if you're willing to help, this problem will be solved. You see, Anna's married into your family, and we only have one son. We just hope he can settle down soon. I interrupted him, Mr. Gray, how much are you short exactly? About $600,000. You are so arrogant. $600,000 is just a little bit off in your mouth. If this had been before, I would have found a way to refuse. But things were different now. I needed to build a good reputation. Mr. Gray, $600,000 is not a small amount. I said. Mr. Gray narrowed his eyes, probably thinking I was going to turn him down. But I quickly added, but you're right. I'm Robert's brother-in-law, just like I am with my own brother. Of course I'll help him. I'll do my best, whatever I can do, I'll do. The Gray's eyes instantly lit up. Mrs. Gray was so excited she almost couldn't get the words out. George, I knew you were a kind-hearted person. I feigned modesty, please, don't mention it. Since I married Anna, we're family, and family doesn't hold back. Exactly. Family doesn't hold back. Mr. Gray slapped me on the shoulder with a hearty laugh and ordered Mrs. Gray to bring out their prized liquor. I quickly continued, Mr. Gray, I haven't finished yet. I want to help Robert, but I'm a bit limited. I only have $500,000 in my account right now. Anna knows about it, and even if I give everything I have, we're still $100,000 short. That's fine, Mr. Gray said, we'll figure out the rest. I smiled. Well, there's an investment opportunity my friend has been offering me. It has a monthly return rate of 20%. He asked me if I wanted to invest with him. And I've been hesitant. Mr. Gray seemed unsure. George, is this reliable? It's my good friend, Mr. Gray. He'd never deceive me. If he hadn't made money himself, he wouldn't have even asked. He wouldn't have agreed if other people asked. Once the money comes through in a month, we can use it to buy Robert's house. It won't delay anything. And you won't need to go around asking people to borrow money, right? Mr. Gray still seemed hesitant. But I've heard that the higher the returns, the greater the risk. What if we lose money? What if we don't even have the $500,000? I reassured him. If we lose money, I'll borrow from my friend. I won't let Robert's house purchase be delayed. Don't worry about it. At this, Mr. Gray finally seemed completely reassured. I took the opportunity to say, Mr. Gray, I remember your birthday is in about 2 weeks, right? I'll book a nice hotel in the city and invite the relatives over so we can celebrate properly. The Grays were even more delighted now. When I got back, I immediately reached out to my friend and sent the transaction and chat records to the Grays. Mr. Gray, you can rest assured. My friend said, in a month, the $600,000 will be ready with interest, no problem. The Grays were overjoyed, praising me non-stop. One of them said, I knew it from the start, George is a trustworthy kid. The other said, our daughter is really lucky to have such a good husband. Heh. When I didn't hand over the money to buy Robert a car, they didn't say that. But what's the point of being a good husband? A good person gets no good reward, right? Before they hung up, I added, by the way, you should probably tell Anna about this. Since it's technically joint marital property. Mr. Gray snorted. Don't tell her for now. She'll just cause a scene. She barely makes anything, and all the money in the house comes from you. You're the man, the head of the house, you can manage it however you want. I agreed. Sure, no problem. But when your dear daughter finds out, I bet this money will have nothing to do with her anymore. Anna's business trip lasted 4 days. When she came back, her face had almost healed. There were still a few odd spots, and she told me it was an allergic reaction to makeup. Naturally. I totally believed her. Then, at home, I suddenly started picking at everything Anna did. When she put on makeup, I said it looked bad. When she bought something, I said she was wasting money. When she rested, I called her lazy. When she watched TV, I said she was stupid. You see, I used to spoil her and give in to her every whim, but now, she couldn't handle my attitude. We started fighting almost every day. But me? I didn't back down during any argument. If she cried, I didn't comfort her. I heard her calling the Grays to complain about me. But each time they turned it back on her. Are you really going to make a big deal over such small stuff? George works so hard, and you get mad when he says something? What's wrong with you? Are you made of clay? You two are married, grown adults. Shouldn't you be more mature? Honestly, George has more sense than you. Divorce? Have you lost your mind? How did we end up with a daughter like you? I'm telling you, don't even mention divorce again. If you try, I swear I'll kill you, you believe me? Anna was on the verge of losing it. Her face darkening every day as her resentment toward me reached its peak. I could tell it was the right time to go after Henry. Since Daisy's men had given him a good beating, Henry hadn't shown up at the gym for days. I used a public phone to call him. His tone was sharp as he demanded, "Who is this?" I said, "Is there a woman named Janet who's been learning swimming from you?" Henry's wariness kicked in. He asked who I was and what I wanted. What do I want? You should be asking what you did. If you don't want anyone to know, don't do it in the first place. On August 23rd, at noon. Janet booked a room. Looks like you two had a great time, huh? There was a pause. His voice wavered, but he still kept up the act. I don't know what you're talking about. Keep pretending. Hope Janet's husband is as hard-headed when he finds out. Do you know what kind of person he is? He stabbed someone and been to prison. You can ask around if you don't believe me. Henry went silent. After a long pause, he finally asked what I wanted. I replied, "You know how to pay to avoid trouble, right? I'm not asking for much, just $200,000. Henry erupted, "Go to hell. Why don't you go rob someone? I have all the evidence of you and Janet checking into a hotel room. I can send it to her husband at any time. Do you know who her husband is? He has stabbed someone and been to jail. If you don't believe me, go ask him yourself." He fell silent again. After a few more moments, I told him, "Think about it. I'll contact you in a few days." Then I hung up. I purposely extorted him for money, hoping it would push him to go crawling back to Anna. After all, Anna had said she'd take care of him. As I predicted, that very night, Henry contacted Anna on social media. He started by apologizing and begging for her forgiveness. Anna must have lost her mind, because she didn't block him. She held her ground and demanded an explanation from Henry. Henry put on his best performance of excuse-making. He claimed the woman had been chasing him, said she had a mental problem, and that they'd only gone out for a meal out of courtesy. He spun the story that she'd somehow mistaken their dinner for a romantic date. He also mentioned that Daisy was in her 30s and not married yet, so she was now clinging to him. In short, Henry's message was clear: he didn't like the woman, it was all her doing, and he was the victim. I don't know if Anna's been losing her mind after all the stress, but she actually believed his nonsense. What a pair they made. One knows how to lie, and the other is just gullible enough to fall for it. So, Anna and her Henry reconciled. I clapped in approval. If they hadn't reconciled, my whole plan would have been ruined. Not long after, it was Mr. Gray's birthday. Just like I'd promised, I reserved a luxurious private room at a high-end hotel. I invited not just Anna's family but also her relatives, friends, and even the neighbors they'd known for decades. There were enough people to fill 3 large tables. This hotel's not bad. Must be 1,000 per person, right? Your daughter married well, and your son's house is just about ready. You're really blessed. Mr. Gray was practically beaming with joy as everyone complimented him. After a few rounds of drinks, the atmosphere grew warmer. Mr. Gray, with a half-empty bottle of wine in front of him, looked even more flushed. And slapped me on the shoulder, praising me as the perfect son-in-law. The others were all eager to chime in, "Yes, you're so lucky to have a son-in-law like George." Of course, they all praised me. After all, I'd promised just yesterday that the money would be coming through and that I'd use it to buy Robert a house. When it came to paying me back, we weren't in a rush. After all, we were family. Anna was the only one with a bland expression throughout the whole event. When her father praised me, I saw her barely noticeable eye roll. Robert, on the other hand, was completely absorbed in his mobile game and didn't even greet me. Suddenly, the door opened. A delivery guy in uniform loudly asked, "Is George here? You've got a package." I stood up, confused, and the guy handed me a USB drive. The note says, "This is a surprise for you, and you should open it right away." A relative shouted, "What surprise, George?" Show us what's on the USB. Others chimed in, urging me to play it. The atmosphere grew charged with curiosity. There was a large screen in the private room, so I pulled out my laptop, connected it, and plugged in the USB drive. There was only one folder on it, and inside was a video. I glanced around. Everyone was focused on the screen, eager to see what would unfold. Even Anna showed some curiosity. I gave a faint smile and hit play. Daisy, you misunderstood, this is my cousin. What cousin? More like a whore. Who are you calling a whore? You're the whore. Ah, then came the sharp sound of slaps, the pained cries of a woman, the angry curses of a man, and the whispers of the onlookers. It was like a chaotic symphony. Anna, dressed only in a towel, was struck silent. Tears welling up in her eyes. Not far from her, a man wearing only boxers looked frantic. Anyone could see what had happened. The room fell dead silent. I turned to look at Anna, pretending to be in shock. At this point, Anna was completely frozen. She stared at the screen, her face a whirlwind of humiliation, shame, confusion, and anger, more dramatic than any changing mask. Mr. and Mrs. Gray stood there, their mouths agape, their faces flushed with a mix of shock and embarrassment. The relatives exchanged glances, none daring to speak first. Finally, Robert broke the silence. Anna. Did someone trick you into this? Tricked? Damn, a grown woman gets tricked into going to bed with a man? I put on a pained expression and said, Anna, you need to explain this to me. Anna looked at me, frantic and unsure, wanting to say something but unable to. I feigned hurt on my face, but in my mind, I was already figuring out the best time to make my exit. Just as I was thinking, I heard a loud smack. Everyone jumped. You shameless thing. You've embarrassed both me and your mother. Mr. Gray had appeared in front of her, eyes bloodshot with rage, and slapped her so hard she fell to the ground. It was clear that he had used all his strength in that blow. You disgraceful creature. I don't have a daughter like you. I should just kill you. He raged as he raised his foot, about to kick Anna, but was quickly restrained by the others. Mrs. Gray was already crying uncontrollably. The scene descended into utter chaos. Anna, suddenly losing it, began smashing anything within reach. She screamed, yes, it was me. What's wrong with that? Just kill me, then. I told you all, George is no good. Do you know how he's treated me these past 2 weeks? You all just told me to put up with it. Why should I? Anna. I slowly spoke. Please, take a good look. The video has a timestamp. Even if we've been arguing lately, you went to a hotel with another man a month ago. Anna fell silent. Mr. and Mrs. Gray looked utterly ashamed, but couldn't bring themselves to comfort her. I suddenly stood up. Sorry, everyone. I think we've had enough for tonight. I'll be leaving now. George. Before anyone could protest, I was already heading out, not giving anyone a chance to stop me. Most importantly, I made sure that the person left holding the bill would not be me. I floored the accelerator and drove as fast as I could, finally laughing out loud. The phone rang endlessly. Almost all the calls were from Mr. Gray, but I didn't answer any of them. I went out to have a drink with a friend, and by the time I got home, it was already 2 a.m. I heard voices from inside the house. I'm not wrong. I have no feelings for him anymore. Shut up, you little brat. Are you trying to kill me with your nonsense? Enough. You've been arguing all night, just take a break. It was Anna talking with her parents. Anna shouted, anyway, it's already like this, I don't care anymore, tomorrow I'm going to divorce him. No. You dare. Mr. and Mrs. Gray both shouted in unison. I stood at the door, barely holding back a laugh. Anna was fuming, why can't I divorce him? Our relationship is already broken, what's the point of this marriage? Do you even consider me your real daughter? The answer was clear, because Robert's house still wasn't in hand. I opened the door. Anna's eyes were red and swollen from crying. And Mr. and Mrs. Gray looked grim but said nothing. When they saw me, Mr. Gray's face lit up, and he immediately came over to grab my arm. George, we were worried sick about you since you weren't answering our calls. I reeked of alcohol, and Mr. Gray naturally assumed I'd been drinking away my troubles. George, don't worry. I've given this stubborn girl a good talking to. She knows she was wrong. If you're still not satisfied, feel free to hit or scold her in front of me and her mother. We won't protect her. Anna almost immediately contradicted Mr. Gray. With her neck stiffened, she shouted, I'm not wrong. What did I do wrong? Mrs. Gray harshly pinched her. George, no matter what, this situation is Anna's fault. But you have to think about your marriage, don't make any rash decisions. I appeared exhausted. I'm really tired right now, my head hurts, I'll go sleep. I couldn't care less when the three of them left. The next few days, Anna didn't come home. I secretly went to Henry's place, and sure enough, I saw Anna's high heels at his doorstep. Mr. and Mrs. Gray called or texted me every day, urging me not to act impulsively and divorce. I calculated, Robert's house, which they were planning to buy for their son, was about to go on sale in a few days. I went back to Henry. This time, Henry was much more docile. His voice had a pleading tone as he asked me what I wanted. Stop pretending, I've already told you what I want. But I really don't have that much money. You don't have money but you're sleeping around? Are you an idiot? Yeah, I'm an idiot, please, bro. How about I treat you to a meal? That $100,000, not a penny less. If you don't have it, go beg your family. Or your girlfriend, or take out a loan, whatever. But if I don't get the money, I'll release those photos and videos right now. I hung up, satisfied. I deliberately lowered the amount from $200,000 to $100,000, making it sound more acceptable to him. This guy was a total broke-ass. If he had any money, he wouldn't be clinging to rich women. Right now, the only one likely to give him money was Anna. Finally, Anna came back. The moment she returned, she demanded a divorce. I said, your parents have been trying to get us to calm down. Anna mocked me, are you even a man? Your wife is sleeping with someone else, and you can still put up with it. I replied calmly, I'm just confused. I haven't done anything wrong, have I? She didn't respond, just hurried me, stop talking. You write the divorce papers. I won't take anything from your car or house, but everything we acquired after marriage should be split evenly. Anna, in these 2 years of marriage, you either spent your money on yourself or gave it to your parents. You can spend whatever you want of my money, but now you've betrayed me and still want to take my share. Do you think that's fair? She sneered. What's unfair about it? The law is clear, everything acquired during marriage is divided. If you're so capable, change the law. At that moment, Anna's phone rang. She hesitated before picking it up. Anna, I've got something to tell you. Prepare yourself. Remember when George and I bought that investment together? We were supposed to make some money, but the seller pulled out. Now we've lost $500,000. I couldn't help but laugh inwardly. My friend, as always, had perfect timing. The call came exactly when I needed it. Anna was furious, questioning how I could invest the money without consulting her and losing it all. Consult? Why didn't you consult me before you cheated? I acted more outraged than her. Ask your parents. If it weren't for them pushing me to buy Robert's house, my money wouldn't be gone. Anna went silent for a while, then suddenly asked, so, all this time, my parents wanted me to endure, to not divorce, because they were waiting for you to hand over money for Robert's buy house? I shrugged, implicitly agreeing with her conclusion. Anna snapped. She immediately called her parents and, after getting the truth, went wild, cursing them out for putting their son's needs above their daughter's life. Mr. and Mrs. Gray, not realizing I was standing nearby, first yelled at her, what are you yelling about? You think you can compare to Robert? If Robert's house cannot be purchased, you're to blame. Even if you two get divorced, you have to use the half of the money given to you to help your brother. Anna screamed, half my ass. He lost all the money. There's nothing left. Go dream. What? Mr. and Mrs. Gray didn't believe it at first. They immediately called me to ask what had happened. Feigning ignorance, I said, I don't know. Let me check. After some drama, I told them the truth, looking defeated. Mrs. Gray, as if she had lost money herself, completely broke down, then began subtly blaming me for being reckless. I couldn't help but sneer. She seemed to forget what her daughter had done to me. Her family had no right to lecture me now. Mrs. Gray, I do feel bad I couldn't help Robert, but Anna and I have reached a point where it's beyond saving. Maybe this is fate. And we're just not meant to be a family. I was hinting that even if the money hadn't been lost, I couldn't lend them anything because of what her daughter had done. George. I didn't mean that. I hung up. I was disgusted by my own performance. Anna, acting like a brat, yelled at me, "George, I've been married to you for years. You owe me compensation for the years I've lost. I don't care if you lost money, I'm not leaving without getting something. TSK. She ate my food, drank my drink, spent my money, and even cheated during our marriage. Yet she had the nerve to ask for compensation? How deluded. Did she really think she could still control me? I shrugged nonchalantly. Fine, then don't get a divorce. I could wait. But could her little lover wait? Henry was definitely waiting for Anna to divorce, so he could grab his share. Sure enough, Anna was all talk, but quickly backed down. A few days later, she came to me again, demanding a divorce. To speed things up and prevent Mr. and Mrs. Gray from interfering, after all. Anna had never been on the same page with them. I suggested we go the lawsuit route. We'd focus on getting it done quickly. Anna moved out and went straight to live with Henry, a seamless transition. By the time Gray's parents found out we were getting a divorce, it was already a week later. I kindly informed them where Henry lived. Both of them, upset about the failure of their son's house purchase, took out their anger on Anna and Henry. They stormed over, calling Anna an ungrateful brat and Henry the third party. I heard Anna, in her rebellious state, immediately decided to cut ties with her parents and even announced she was marrying Henry. Mr. Gray nearly had a heart attack. After the scene with the Gray couple, Anna stopped pretending and went public about her divorce. She posted on social media, announcing that she was officially divorced. She ended it with, "From now on, we are strangers." I replied, "Aren't you afraid that your lover is after something else instead of you?" She responded, "Sorry to disappoint you, but we're true lover." True love, huh? Let's see if true love can survive a little test. I printed out multiple copies of the evidence I'd gathered about Henry's messy personal life and distributed them around the gym, handing them out to anyone I could. Henry's image was destroyed completely. The gym's reputation took a major hit, with many members demanding refunds. The gym immediately fired Henry and even demanded compensation for reputation and financial losses. That same night, I unexpectedly ran into Anna and Henry at a restaurant near my neighborhood. It wasn't surprising, my gym was close. And Henry's rented place wasn't far from mine either. What caught my attention was that they seemed to be arguing. They were so absorbed in their conversation that they didn't notice me. Henry was grinning, trying to appease Anna, but she just kept shaking her head. I did my best to stay hidden, standing in a spot where they couldn't see me but I could hear them clearly. "Anna, please, just this once. Henry, you keep asking for $100,000. But I really don't have that kind of money. Everything I've earned after starting my job has been taken by my parents and given to my brother. But your ex-husband saved a lot, right? After the divorce, you'll get half of it. I've told you so many times, why don't you believe me? I really don't have anything." Henry fell silent. Anna, sensing the tension, forced a smile and was about to say something when Henry suddenly slammed the spoon into the boiling soup. The hot liquid splashed across Anna's face and body, burning her, and she shrieked, stumbling backward. Then Henry began yelling at her, his face twisted in fury. "Go fuck yourself. You lied to me. You said after the divorce, you'd be with me, give me everything, yourself, your money. Now, you're changing your mind? You're such a bitch. Fucking bitch." Henry cursed loudly, without any regard for the public setting. Anna was completely stunned. People in the restaurant were staring, but Henry seemed utterly indifferent. "I've begged you so many times, and all you do is drag your feet. You got me fired. And now you won't even pay up. You're always talking about marriage, who the hell would want to marry you? Do you think I'm with you because I love you? Huh? Do you really think you have that much charm?" Anna's eyes were filled with tears, a mix of shame and anger. "Henry, what's wrong with you? Can we talk at home? I've made myself clear, if you don't give me the $100,000, we're done. If you're not willing, then just get the hell out." With that, Henry stormed off, leaving Anna standing there, awkwardly subjected to everyone's curious stares. I could barely hold back my laughter. I'd known they'd have money troubles, but I hadn't expected it to play out so perfectly. It was in that moment Anna finally realized that her charming lover had always been after her money. Her so-called true love was nothing but a joke. Blushing, Anna called the waiter to settle the bill, clearly wanting to escape. But just as she was about to leave, I showed up. I couldn't hold my laughter anymore. She instantly understood that I'd witnessed everything. She bit her lip and shot me a glare. Before she could speak, I beat her to it. Haha, true love. Anna completely snapped, her face turning red with anger, looking like she might faint from rage. Of course, Anna and Henry broke up after that. It was a messy and ugly breakup. Anna severed ties with her family, and her true love quickly burned out, leaving her disheartened and defeated. Oh. And she blocked me. I noticed that Henry was preparing to move and had cancelled his old phone number and social media accounts. Was he trying to run away? Dream on. I had one final gift for him, and he wasn't getting out of this easily. I gathered all the evidence I had about Henry and his affair with Janet, the mother of two, and sent it to Janet's husband. I also made sure to let him know where Henry was staying and where he frequented. A few days later, the neighborhood was buzzing with gossip. A personal trainer had been caught sleeping with a married woman. And her husband found out. He went straight to Henry's place and beat the living daylights out of him. Henry was left half dead, covered in bruises, with several broken ribs and, more crucially, his sex tool has been destroyed. By the time the ambulance arrived, Henry was barely breathing. The gossips were all over it, trying to figure out which gym the trainer worked at. Someone recalled seeing a similar scandal involving a trainer from a nearby gym. At that moment, Anna, who had just lifted my block, coldly asked me if I had anything of hers. I casually forwarded the gossip to her. She was furious. What are you trying to say? Exactly what you think I'm saying. George, are you insane? I did some research. I'm fine. But you might want to get checked yourself. A guy like that, messing around with so many people, who knows what kind of diseases he might have. The sharp-tongued Anna, who'd never lost an argument with me, was finally left speechless. Bad people get their punishment, and despicable people pay the price. This drama, which I had personally orchestrated, finally came to a perfect conclusion.